Hello, my friend. Hello. I am CharLee Simons, talking about two things you're never supposed to talk about: politics and religion. That's what I do. We should have never stopped. One decides what life is going to be like here on earth, the other one decides what it's going to be like when you leave it. I think we should definitely be talking about that as opposed to so many other things that I see just filling people's minds and time and wasting just to make you ineffective. I think that's the enemy's plan always. The enemy wins when he can make you ineffective, especially for the Lord. So that's what I'm all about. I want to be effective. I want to be utilized and used by the creator of the universe because I'm not building my treasures on earth, I'm building my treasures in heaven where moth cannot eat, rust cannot destroy, thieves cannot steal. So if you're a follower of Christ Jesus and you read God's word, you got to read his word to know what it says. Otherwise, you're just going to be easily duped by somebody who comes along wearing skinny jeans and a slick haircut, telling you what the Bible means for 22 and a half minutes once a week. I'm sorry, that's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And the word tells us that if the days were not shortened, even the very elect would fall away. So if you're not in God's word and you're not in prayer and you're not building that relationship with him, which is what it's all about, not just saying the words, well, I raised my hand, so the pastor said I'm saved, and then that's it. There seems to be more. Now, one thing the American church loves to scream and shout is, once saved, always saved. Everybody, once saved, always saved. Raise your hand at Bible camp, and then you'll be saved forever. Yeah, Jesus said no one can snatch us out of his hand, but it doesn't say anything about us jumping out. And I know Christians who have done that. The enemy is extremely powerful. Don't ever forget that he is a created, perfect being. Don't forget that. The angel of light, the most beautiful angel. And he's got a few thousand years of experience on how to fool us and how to make us think one thing and get distracted and get pulled away from the Lord. That makes him happy. So, my guest today is Steve Stern, the Stern American. He's back on Do Not Talk, and I'm looking forward to it. But before we get to him, remember on days when they would bring in the projector when you were in elementary, middle school, high school? They'd wheel in a projector on that rolling cart. Now, me was actually threading the film. You probably not so much, just a video, but you're going to watch a movie. Remember how exciting that was? We're going to watch a movie today, kids. Yay! That's awesome. No teacher learning. We don't need no education. Well, apparently you do because your grammar right there was pathetic. But I just remember how excited I was, and all of us were when it was going to be a movie day. Like this. Today's a movie day.
Are divided into classifications: the educable, the trainable, and the custodial. Obviously, we can only assess the abilities or potential of the mentally retarded on an individual basis. Seemingly random motions and movements are fairly common among the custodial retarded, and they may take many forms. Sometimes there are motions which seem to have no meaning whatever and may even cause unintentional self-inflicted injuries. The vast majority of the mentally retarded are intelligent enough that they can be taught a great many things. However, there's a wide range of ability even among those considered educable. And their ability to learn obviously varies according to their level of intelligence. Equally important is a stimulating environment. However, we must remember to set realistic standards that are not too high for the individual. Many of the trainable retarded can learn to take certain kinds of household responsibilities, some of which may be more complex than they are usually given credit for. It would be wrong to expect a mentally retarded person to become a master craftsman. The standards are too high. But even in the skilled trades, for example, the mentally retarded can be trained to become valuable assistants. Who are the mentally retarded? They are people. They come in both sexes and in all sizes, shapes, creeds, and colors. Wherever people live, there also live the mentally retarded.
Thank you, Dilly, for making that. That is brilliant. Don't you love that? Doesn't it seem like a nightmare? I mean, even just seeing those people again, doesn't it kind of bring up some bad memories and some terrible feelings? It does for me. It was like a 4 year nightmare. But they're right around the corner. They're not going away unless, of course, they get Gitmo. They get Gitmoed, which, frankly, I'm praying for that kind of justice. I want to see that happen. I want people to be punished for the horrible things that they did to my nation. Maybe that's just me. Hello, Steve Stern. What's up, my friend? How's the Stern American out there in Florida? You holding up the East Coast for us?
Well, I think what I just saw was sensational because it goes just what we're doing and why this happened. How can the government pay all this money out and nobody even understand or see what it is? So, and I could tell you why, and I could tell you how, and I think that was the best thing I've seen in a long time. Now, whether we show those people or not, it's actually the right side, the Republicans, that have caused the problem. And why I say that is because people haven't stepped up. Now, in this last election, people stepped up. And I remember when Rudy Giuliani was running for the mayor of New York. And I bring that up because I spoke to him and I was actually on his show about a year ago. And one of the things he told me was he ran for office, as a Republican in a Democratic area. So the first time he ran, crime was at about 25%. He lost. Second time he ran, crime was at 50%. He lost. The third time he ran, crime was at 75%. He won. And this is exactly what happened with this election. We were at crime at 90%. And what we have to do is change the narrative. And how do you do that? So we're working on two different things. Precinct strategy, which is something that we talk about every time, but it hasn't resonated up until now. And why is that? Because Republicans, Democrats, independents, they're lazy. They want you and me to do the work.
Right.
So now they understand what the story is. So if you go to precinctstrategy.com, www.precinctstrategy.com, you can see this book. You can read about how to get involved. Why is it important to get involved? Well, if you want the government to spend your money and you don't care, it's going to happen because you're not involved. So we started this about 4 years ago. And how did this happen? So I'm the vice chair of the Broward Republican Executive Committee. I was in there for 25 years, never really became an officer because I was the membership chairman. And I saw how everything in the Republican Party worked, that it was a social club. Nobody really cared. They came into a meeting and nothing happened. So what happened was about 4 years ago, I saw Dan Schultz on Steve Bannon. I called him up and I said, this is what's happening in Broward County. People are starting to get aware. We're a blue county, and people were starting to say, we've taken it. We've taken it on the chin. We've taken it by our people running for office. We cannot win, and we got to get involved. So I got on there, and I saw Steve Bannon, and I said, well, I got to get involved with that program. So I called Dan Schultz up. He said, what's going on in Broward County? I told him. He got me on Steve Bannon 4 years ago. That started the whole ball rolling because Steve is really the champion of the executive county town committees, which are simply joining and getting involved. Now, what's crazy, 4 years ago, there were 400,000 slots in the Republican Party, and there were 200,000 people involved. 4 years later, after getting on 170 programs, there's only 210,000 people involved. What does that mean? That means that people are lazy. They don't get involved. They don't care. Now, I'm 83, and if I can do it, anybody listening to this program can do it. You can give 10 minutes a week, an hour a week, 2 hours a week, 2 hours a month, but something. Once you get involved, you see how important it is. Now, what does a committee man and committee woman do? So every state is kind of different. In Florida, where I belong to, and 3 years ago, we had maybe 70, 80,000 more Democrats and Republicans. Today, we got
You're talking about central committees, right?
What's that? Yeah.
Central committees. Every county, well, if they're doing their job, every county has a central committee for the Republican Party.
Well, you're in California, correct?
Yeah.
So in California, it's central committees. In Florida, it's executive committees, and there's a big difference.
Okay.
The difference is every county in Florida, we'll give you an example, has an executive committee. Now, it runs differently because you can join as a member and get involved in many different ways. One, you can get elected every 2 years. Two, you can just join and get voted in. And the committees can grow. And we've grown in Florida. We've taken away a lot of the rhinos and establishment people and got different people. In California, you got central committees, which are controlled by the freaking establishment people in California. And now you got an election coming up this month. And we're hoping that the MAGA person running will win. Now, you talk about California. How did I get involved in California? Tina Saline saw me on Bannon. And again, Bannon has the people who are listening and a huge amount of people. That doesn't mean that you don't have it and Wayne Root doesn't have it. And we've exhausted pretty much everything on Steve Bannon because I've been on this so many times that if they don't join or they don't do it, it's not going to happen. So I've gotten on other programs, and we'll tell you, the first time I got on Steve Bannon was very funny because I had never been on TV, never been on, I've made different remarks in different places, and I've spoken in different areas. I've run events. But when you get on Steve Bannon, you're talking to 1 million people, maybe more. Who knows? And what happened was they texted me and said, we're going to get you on Skype. And I said, what the heck is Skype? So I had to get Skype.
I remember Skype.
Right. So we had to have 2 tech people make sure that we get on.
Yeah.
So they tell me I'm going to be on at 10:15. And I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm making notes because, the first time you get on a program, you have no idea what you're going to say. And you want to say the right stuff because you get on, you make a mistake. You never
get one shot. You get one shot to make a first impression, don't you?
So I get up 3 o'clock and I'm writing notes to myself. And
3 o'clock. Wow.
3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and said, holy cow. I started talking to myself. So I made the notes and I figured I'd go back to sleep. Well, I never went back to sleep. So I'm on supposedly at 10:15 and I get called 10:15 and they said, you'll get on soon. And I'm in the background hearing what's going on and it's 10:30 and I'm not on. 10:45, they text me, you'll be on at 11, then 11:15, 11:30, and 11:45. By that time, I had lost 5 pounds of sweat and I figured I'd never even get on. You know what I mean? But 11:46, I get on. And at that time, I had forgotten everything I was going to say.
Right.
So I started talking and from rote, I remembered most of the stuff. And, I had no clue what I said. So about a day later, they text me and said, hey, you did a great job. Here's a copy of the clip. And I listened to it and it was pretty good. I could have done better. So about 3-4 weeks later, they said, hey, we're going to get you back on again because, you're a natural salesman. I've been in business 71 years. Behind me, you see the flagshirt.com. We're the largest patriotic website in the world. And I don't promote it a lot because everybody does it for me, but let's talk about it.
Hold it closer to the camera. Hold it closer to the camera because I love your company. I love what you do.
There you go. So we know what we do, and a lot of people do it. So you see on there my email and my phone and my website. So I want to let everybody know who's listening that I answer the phone. And I got to say, I call back because we get a lot of crank calls. So I wait to hear the message, and I'm glad to call you back. I return emails all the time. I guess I'm a little different than everybody else. I actually call you back. Now, I get on a couple of programs and I have fun with me. One is Cowboy Logic on Real America Voice. Oh, yeah. And he always picks up the phone while we're on there and calls me to see if I pick up the phone. And actually, I pick up the phone. So it's kind of like funny. So I've been on Bannon about 150 times. And then about 4 months ago or 8 months ago, before Bannon went to jail, we're going to talk about this whole program of election integrity. Behind you, I think you can see a couple of pictures of President Trump and myself. And I was up in his office 2 days before the last election. Why is that important? Well, the first thing is, prior to the meeting, he endorsed precinct strategy, so we knew who I was. Liz Harrington, Bannon, myself, and Schultz were on a four-way conversation, and Liz Harrington was able to get the president to endorse him. So I went up there to talk to him about precinct strategy, and while I was up there, my wife was up there, my grandson. I was up there for about 45 minutes, and a funny thing happened because 2 weeks before that, I was supposed to be on with him, and they canceled. So I figured, well, I never get back to see him. But the day that he asked me to come back, that night we were having a big program, and he was invited, and he was getting an award for everything he did in Israel. So it worked out pretty good because I was there at 4 o'clock, and we talked. And he actually, this was 2 days before the last election. So we were talking about the election. I said, Mr. President, I got a couple of, at that time he wasn't president, but I called him Mr. President. I said, I have two candidates I'd like you to endorse. And I figured, yeah, well, I got nothing to lose. We actually endorsed them 2 days before the election, even though he knew they were going to lose, but he felt very strongly about the two candidates. So then we started talking. And one of the reasons I went up there was to ask him to talk about precinct strategy, getting people involved when he went to his rallies. So he said to me, I endorse precinct strategy and you're doing a terrific job. You got a call every 2-3 weeks. My people tell me it's terrific. Liz Harrington tells me you're terrific. And he sent me a nice letter for my birthday, which I've read on a lot of programs, which was phenomenal. And he said to me, what do you think about the 2024 election? And I said to him, well, I didn't think anything has changed. Election integrity is still bad. I wasn't an expert on it, but I knew a lot of people doing it. So he said, well, why don't you move the election integrity calls with the precinct strategy? I said, well, Mr. President, I will consider it, but I'd have to find out what I'm doing. So it took me 5 weeks. I spoke to 100 people. I got some of the top people on election integrity, and we started a call about 5 weeks later. And we were doing it every 2 weeks and getting between 200 and 500, sometimes 700 people on. And it took a lot of work because you got to get the speakers, et cetera, et cetera. Well, about 8 months ago, I was on Steve Bannon, and we did something a little different. As you see, I have my email on the bottom of your screen. So I learned a lot. I put my email on the bottom of your screen, and 1,000 people signed up for the election integrity call. And I said, wow, this is great. But normally he gives you about 5-6 minutes because he's got a lot of people on. He gave me about 12 minutes. And then he said at the end of the call, because, when you're preparing for 5 minutes and you got 12, you got to come up with a lot of data. So he said to me, Steve, I'm going to put your election security call live on the War Room on Getter. I said, that's terrific. And as an 83-year-old guy, you learn something every day because if you don't learn something, you're not going anywhere. What I learned was he had 38,000 people on the call. And I said to myself, that's phenomenal. But then again, I said to myself, well, if he's got 38,000 on there, how am I going to get more people on? So I started calling up podcasters. And then we got 5, 10, 50, 100. So last week, we had one of the biggest events ever held. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what that was.
Yeah, you did. I aired that one too.
You can see that's the second annual Republican. And that was a fundraiser, which we started. So while they were playing golf, we had an election security call. And on that call, we had 10 million people. Now, how do you get 10 million people on a call? It takes a lot of work. 5 weeks of letting everybody know when it was, how it was going to be. It was on for 5 hours. 3 hours was our election security call. Then we had interviews, and then we had speakers. So we had General Flynn on there. We had Brian Swenson on. Now, Brian Swenson, I had heard him on Cleta Mitchell's call, and I had known him. He's a senior advisor for the election integrity for the RNC. Now, during the election, the RNC was not that cooperative. Let's say they used to be 0, and we got up to about 20%. And what they did was they sent me a nice little gift. It was something on email, but it wasn't anything great. And I got them going to protectthevote.com, which is very important, 40,000 poll watchers and poll workers. So he talked about on our Zoom meeting how they help win the election. And what I did was, because we had all these people on from election integrity over the last 2 years, Susie Wiles, Wayne Root, General Flynn, Bannon, many, many celebrities texted me, emailed me, thank you for what you did to help win the election. Now, what did we do? Every 2 weeks, we'd have people on telling the people what to do, how to work to help win the election and change the thing. So we had the illegal aliens voting. We had too many paper ballots that shouldn't have been there. So we all know what it was. But we won with helping President Trump. However, we lost a lot of down ballot votes because we still didn't stop the steal. We helped. And when President Trump said it was too big to rig, yes, it was too big to rig on the presidential election. And again, most of our people in the United States woke up.
They were rigging smaller elections and bills and local candidates. That was all going on, wasn't it?
Yeah, correct. And on our Zoom meeting, we had all the people tell you how they stole the election. So let's talk about who we had on and who we're going to have on and how you can get involved in our next one. So we had on our call, we had Chris Gleason, I said, then we had General Flynn come in, and General Flynn talked about going forward and how do we, he's actually a committee man and belongs to the Republican Party in Sarasota, Florida. So whatever he says, he believes in that. Then I had my counter, Raj Diyajami from Defend Florida, on. He talked about election reforms and leadership in conference building. So that was very important. And if you go to Stern American Rumble, it's very simple. Go to Stern American Rumble and go to Stern American on X and follow me because it's very important. But if you go to Stern American Rumble, you will see everything on there for the election integrity call and what the people said, and you can watch it. So Flynn was very exciting, and a lot of people texted me that, how great it was. Then we had John Goodman on. John is a great guy. We're going to have him on again because he had a little technical difficulty.
Not the actor.
Talking about mail-in ballots. And also during the our golf tournament, one of your friends, Sam Anthony, was playing the golf from yournews.com. He helps us a lot in getting involved. I'm an investor in the company. I've been there for a long time, but you want to go there because he has all the podcasts on there live, and he has a lot of information. You're able to post anything you'd like as long as it's, kosher.
Right.
And so then we had John Bongino on. He talked about Palm Beach. Now, Florida is good.
Dan Bongino?
No, Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino is one of my guys in Palm Beach that ran for director of elections there. And he lost to Wendy Link. And they're showing how the ballot, she got more votes than Kamala Harris. So that didn't make any sense. So it's the same old stuff. We had, and it's tied into Broward, Palm Beach. And then we had many people on from St. Petersburg, Florida. Chris Gleason shows how the fraud in the election in Pinellas Park, along with a few of the other guys, talking about the 189,000 ballots that were sent out on a Sunday that nobody ever asked for. So there's a lawsuit on there. And on our next election, we're going to have one of the attorneys that represented him. And we're going to have Rocky Rockford on, who also was running for office there, and how these ballots changed the election. So one of the important things also, I'm dedicating this particular call that we're on for Tina Peters. Now, I'm shocked at how many people don't know who Tina Peters is. We are going to have her attorney on, Pat McSweeney, who's going to be on there talking about Tina Peters. And just today, Joe Hoft, who'll be on there also, and he's going to be talking about Orange, how they stole the election in Orange, California, where you are. And it's going to be pretty exciting. So Pat's talking about something that the Justice Department has come up with. So if you want to see it, get to me and I'll send you the link because we got a lot to talk about here.
Absolutely. So, I love that you're doing this. I want to thank you for doing this. And here's the best part. Here's why I really appreciate you is you haven't stopped. And so many, at least that in my circles, I'm hearing going, well, we got Trump elected, so everything's going to be okay. He's going to fix everything now. Yeah. No. What worst attitude you could possibly have? This is the last. We're just getting started now. Now we got to, like General Flynn always says, act locally, impact nationally. We've got to be more involved than ever before. I'm a delegate with the California GOP. I'm going to be there, and I'm going rhino hunting. I'm livid with my own party in the state. I don't even like that we call ourselves GOP. It's like we're some kind of exclusive club and you're not invited. Most people don't even know what that stands for. Why do we call ourselves that? That's stupid. We're the Republican Party and they're the Democrat Party. And that's that. It's salt and light is what we have to be in a world of darkness over there on the left. The state of California has been absconded. It's been stolen. And it was easy because we had a Republican Party that was sitting back and they seemed to enjoy being in second place because it's easier to fundraise, isn't it now?
Well, there's a lot in California that we got to talk about, but at another time. We want to talk about some of the people that are going to help us. So on this next, I'm putting a call to Congressman Pete Sessions. Pete Sessions going to have a bill in Congress talking about the paper ballots, which are terrible for California. And that's how Orange lost 3 congressmen.
The paper ballots are terrible. You mean the loss of the paper ballots?
Well, the thing is, everybody in California gets a paper ballot.
They get by mail. Yes, yes.
Yeah, we're talking about mail-in ballots, and we had a lot of people talking about mail-in ballots on the last one and then this one happening. And the mail-in ballots in 9 states are terrible. And of course, they have blue states because they can cheat. So Pete Sessions, which I had a call into him today, we're hoping he comes on. I have 1 spot open. And we're going to let him try to come on and talk about it. So what I'm doing different on this election security call, I'm bringing on all new people. We're going to have Chris Jersky, who's going to be talking about just about what we're talking about, the paper ballots. We had on last time a girl that talked about who prints the ballots and where do those extra ballots go. So there's a complicated effort on all this stuff, which a lot of people don't know about. And that's why one of the most important things is to listen to our thing. We had Dan Smerliglio on. He is the voice of the people. He got us 6 million people to listen to our election security call. So he drove down from Maine and he was actually live at our event. Most of the people that were at our event were flown in. They flew in and they spoke. We had Linda Sinkowitz, which comes on all the time. We had people from Pennsylvania, Greg Stenstrom, who you hear about a lot. So on this new one that you're talking about, and if you want to come on and listen, there's a bunch of different ways to get on. So the next one is going to be March the 20th, a week from this Thursday, 2:00 Eastern time. And we're going to have Ray Michaels on. Ray is a delegate and a committee man in Arizona. He's also a brother. He and his brother, Norm, run TotalNews.com, which I take both of them because he's in San Diego and does the West Coast, and kind of Sam does kind of the East Coast. So we have 2 different people. Both of them are terrific guys. And then we're going to have Lisa Bennett from Montana. So we're bringing on states that have never been on before. Lisa Brito is going to be talking about Maine. So you want to have different people on it all the time so that you can really speak to people and let them know. We're also going to have Bernadette Smith, who's in Michigan. She's the vice chair of the Republican Party over there. We're going to have Kim Hermans, who's in New York, and Joe Hopt, who everybody knows is going to be talking about Orange County. So we're going to be talking about Orange County, California. We're going to be talking about Tina Peters. We're going to be talking about New York. We're going to be talking about a lot of areas which we haven't done before, so you can see how it's so important. And one of our speakers, who is our main speaker, he also played in golf at our election security call, and our golf to him was Kevin Sorbo. Kevin Sorbo, Hercules, a great actor. He did a tremendous job talking, which you can see on Stern American, and his wife, Sam Sorbo, was on Patriot TV, and she talked about the school system. So during everything with elections and why all this has happened is, first thing is you go to school. So if you go to school and you're indoctrinated, which I have 2 granddaughters that went to Northwestern University, they were probably conservative going in and Democrat going out because of what they teach them. Yeah. So Sam is working on getting people involved and changing our demographics in everything that's happening in school. And then we got Turning Point, which I'm working with a lot of people because they are working with kids. So when we see what's happening, it's not the Democrats' fault. It's the Republicans' fault. Because look what they let happen. When Trump got in his first term, he had no knowledge of all the stuff that was happening. Look when he was talking about how many Social Security people get paid when they're 300 years old, 200 years old, 150. Well, where is all that money going? And when he talked about this, You would think that people got up in arms, and they didn't. When the border was open, I talked about it many times with Tom Homan and many people. I was up in many fundraisers for Tom and Tom Trento. So, I'm involved with everybody. So, I go with the grassroots, and I want to talk about a couple of people that, when I get on a lot of shows because I have the knowledge and because I run these election integrity, precinct strategy. But we have a lot of people in these states that don't get on, and they work 12 hours a day like I do. And I'm going to repeat a couple of the people because it's very important and what they do. So in Texas, we have a guy, Robert West, who also, like Dan Schultz, and we put this up so you can see it, the 5-Star Plan. And this, if you go there and go to his website and get his book, he's great because he got thousands of people involved in the Republican Party in Texas. And we need people to step up. So in Nevada, I was out there one time and I met a guy, Paul Bodine. I was out at one of the events, and he did something that really helped me a lot in thought process. What happened was he was at the Clay Clark event, and I went out there on the way to San Diego to meet somebody, which we'll talk about also. So Paul in Nevada had a booth at Clay Clark's event, and I went up to see him, and he was getting people involved, and I started interviewing them, and I said to them, well, don't you know there's a Republican Party, and don't you know this and that? They said, well, we actually knew there's a Republican Party in Nevada, but we didn't know how to get involved. So we have millions of people out there who don't know how to get involved. And that's one of the things we're trying to get.
Because they treat it like an exclusive club.
Exactly. But also people are lazy, so they don't get involved. Now there are, just to give an example, you don't have to be involved in the main group. We have in Broward County 11 different clubs, which you could belong to, which are more centralized and on your own precinct. So let's say I'm the vice chair president of the Western Republican Club. Then we have the Sunrise Club. We have Plantation. So in your county, there are clubs. There are women clubs. There are men clubs. There are both kind of clubs. So there's ways to get involved. And I want to say there are a lot of people involved outside the main Republican Party. But the funny part about it is the main Republican Party, the hierarchy, doesn't get involved with the grassroots guys. Now they try to, but they don't do a good job. You call the chairman of the Republican Party, you'll never get him, he'll never answer a call. Well, that's ridiculous, because how is your word going to get all the way up? And we have the same little problem with the Trump campaign. We are trying to get involved with Trump on the grassroots. We are trying to get an organization that is up in Washington that listens to all our people that are on the grassroots. We can change this country big time. I mean, I know Trump is working hard and the Democrats are trying to stop him. So people like Ann Partridge in Illinois, she's helping that. But one of my favorite people are Chainsaw Sue O'Sullivan, Massachusetts. Why? Because Massachusetts is a blue state. And what she did, she started town committees. In Massachusetts, they have town committees, a little different than the executive committees, 56 new town committees. Now, if you don't think that's important, that's so important, because here's a person that started those. They would never have been involved if they didn't do it. Then we have a guy in Connecticut, Dominic Lombardi. He's the youngest chair that's ever happened. We need the young people, the young Republicans to get involved. So, I'm a one-man show, I have a lot of assistants now, but we need people to step up. We got a guy in South Carolina, I talk about him all the time, Jeff Davis. Why is it important? Because he has myscgop.com. Let me repeat that, myscgop.com. Why is that important? Every day he gets a message out to everybody he has on his list, 20,000 people in South Carolina, to let them know what's going on. And we're trying to do this in every state so that people actually know what's going on, because the more people that get involved. And where is this happening? New Jersey. Elizabeth Nader. She's one of my good people. She worked with Spadia, the radio guy. They started a club called Common Sense Club. Makes sense. About 3 years ago, with about 100 people, they got 150,000 people involved. That's the only way to get the word out. Then I got my friend Stacy Malloy in Vermont. She works very closely with me, getting a lot of people involved. Yesterday alone, she's going to try to help Tina Peters. Everybody's coming out to help Tina Peters. We got to understand, a lot of people don't know what happened. She's in Colorado. 70 years old. And I got to tell you, they're treating her in jail like they did in Vietnam with the war criminals. She is being put in solitary confinement. Imagine this. All she did was try to save all the ballots and all the stuff. And she was a whistleblower. So they're
Yep.
making a big thing out of her. And they put her in with 25 people in a cell so she can't sleep at night. They change her cells all the time. They take away her food. They take away her iPad. They do everything they can. The more we try to help, the more they take away. So we're asking everybody to look her up, understand, because she is a hero. I mean, a real hero.
I
And
agree.
we got to make her more than a hero. We got to get her out of jail.
Why
So-
has President Trump not pardoned her?
He can't pardon her because it's a state thing. So he's asked his lawyers to work round the clock to get her out of jail. And that's what they're working on. The Justice Department, if you send me an email, I will text you or email you what came out today about Tina Peters. I'll see if I can get it on my phone here to bring it up so everybody can see it, because I think it's important that everybody knows. And, you know, when you try to help everybody, which is very difficult, it takes a lot of time. I was just on the phone today getting 3 new podcasters. So if you know a podcaster that wants to help us, please let them know, because very important. And how did I get the new podcasters? General Flynn has helped us. He got me 200 new podcasters.
So
And
podcasters for what? What do you mean? To participate in the calls or what?
yeah, what they do is they put the calls on their stream. So they're doing. So
Right.
let me tell you what happened. One of our singers got us a podcaster who I didn't know. His name is the podcast called Brooklyn Cafe. I loved him because I'm from Brooklyn, even though he's from one of the boroughs. He's not from Brooklyn. But the funny part about it, he's been in business 22 years, 10 years as a podcaster. He got us 565,000 people to view. So the more voice you have, you know it's important. If I speak to 50 million people, just like Trump, it's going to make a difference. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we're trying to do. I don't mean to be looking down, but I'm trying to get this thing on Tina Peters.
No, that's all right. And just to throw this out too, if you want to join Steve in these endeavors, and
there it is right here. Take a look at this.
Okay.
Let's get it up, because I think this is one of the most important things that I've got. So I'm backwards. So you see what it says? A day of reckoning for Tina Peters, who falsely was imprisoned. So
Yeah.
again, I'll put that up so you can see it. If you want that, email me or text me at 954-980-0041. And as you put this up and as I go on, this was written by our friend, Joe Hoft. And you can see it starts like this. And there's a lot of information. 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, we had an 8-hour program telling you everything about Tina Peters. I was on it. I wasn't speaking, but we had 8 great speakers. Clemens, the professor, he went to jail to interview Tina. I spoke to her in jail. So, you know, very important. And as we go down this thing, I want to give you a chance to ask questions, but I want to tell you a couple other people that were on a Zoom, which were very important.
Okay.
Marley Hornick got the biggest view, United Sovereign America. She talked about the California fraud. So you may want to look at it and scroll through my thing, because Marley Hornick is very important. She worked very hard on this. We also had Deb Monks on it talking about who's printing the ballots and risk assessment. So there's so much going on. And Robin Sachs was on there from Maryland. She was down in Palm Beach vacation. She came on there. So you could see we had a tremendous amount of people on. I mean, you go on for 5 hours with interviews and stuff. You can't watch it for all that time, but you may want to scroll through it and go to Stern American Rumble, and it's right up there. Also, I'm asking everybody who listens to this, go to Stern American to follow me on Twitter, because you're going to get a lot of information coming on this stuff. And I want to thank Raj Diajami, Defend Florida. He's my counterpart on all this stuff. So let me give you a couple of questions, because, you know, I run out of gas and I start to lose my voice. You know, we've talked about a lot of stuff, but I miss some things sometimes. I try not to. But Charlie, give me a couple of questions you may have in the background, and we'll try to answer them.
How do you not get discouraged Out here in California, maybe it's different in Florida. Maybe you have more active people who are, and maybe that's why the state is so different. But you're just one election away from having another disastrous governor who could dismantle and destroy everything that Ron DeSantis has done.
Well,
You've
I
got,
think one of the things is you have to understand what happened in California. Since Reagan was there, 20 million illegal aliens came in and 20 million people moved out. So you have until we get rid of the illegal aliens, which we have to help Tom Homan do, you got no chance because all those illegal aliens they want to stay there. So they vote Democratic because the type
they know where
city.
the freebies are coming from. Yeah.
Exactly. So even though it's hard, and I got 10,000 people involved in California, anytime you want people, you want to go to Tina Celine, my girl, she knows everybody there. She hooked me up with 10, like I said, 10,000. How did we get 10,000? We have 500 people that got people under them. I interviewed 30 candidates running for office, and I found out all the problems that are there. We have different communities in California. You got the Chinese that don't even speak English. They got certain cities. We got all these different people, Asians and everything like that. Well, it's hard to unite everybody there. You know what I'm saying? And it's hard to beat sending out 20 million or 30 million or how many millions they send out in ballots. And some people get 10 ballots, but you got to fight. And you start at the beginning and you keep going. And President Trump's going to help because the thing that Pete Sessions has, you have to have a valid license or a valid identification. All these things are going to take place over the next 6 or 8 weeks. Now, is the Congress going to pass it? Is the Senate going to pass it? Now we're going to see it's going to get down to the most important things of history on when he brings this up and when other people bring this up, because President Trump wants to get the elections done right. Take away the machines, just have, paper ballots, may not work, but making sure the machines are calibrated so they're not crooked, make sure they're taken off the internet, all these things that we got to do. We know what's wrong. And now that all this stuff's coming out and people understand what the Democrats have done over the past years, maybe a lot of these independents will switch over to us. Maybe some of the Democrats who are kind of in the middle will understand that they're in the wrong party. Now, when you saw President Trump's speech and you saw these idiots holding up these stupid signs and never getting up and clap, all they did was, their approval rating is 20%. So it's time for us to get out to the people and change them from Democrats to Republicans. That's going to make a big difference in California. Now,
That's
California,
great. But Steve, I'm concerned with my own party. I'm concerned with rooting out people who want to see the demise of my own party. They seem to be working hard to completely dismantle my party in California. That's my focus. I'm glad that you're working on all that. But right now, I want to know, how do you not get discouraged? That's what I asked. How do you not
we're
get
going to know more after this election that's coming up. When is the election coming up for the head of the Republican Party in California?
That's next weekend. It's March 16th. Sunday, March 16th is voting day.
That's next week. So we're going to know what's happening after that election. So give me a call when you know who won, because I don't remember the guy's name, but he called me that he's running.
Mike Morrell is who I'm voting for, and
he actually thought, it just shows you, he thought I was a delegate because I'm so involved in California. I said, Mike, I'm in Florida, but I'm helping the people out there. And I called a lot of people, and he's got a good chance, but we got to see how they cheat. Even the Republicans cheat in their own party.
Yes, so, with our electronic little voting devices that look like TV remotes. That's what's going on. And the proxy votes. That's been disastrous.
Well, we're going to know more. So right after Sunday's election, call me and let me know, because even if he wins, they're going to find a way to get him out of there. And the same thing happened in Michigan, but now things have changed. You know what I mean? So we have to work hard in California, and I've got the people, but let's see what happens, because a lot will happen if we get a good guy as the head of the Republican Party. So if Mike wins, there'll be a big change. If he loses, we're back to square one. So that's just some of the stuff. I'm starting to lose my voice, so I'm going to let you carry on and get a couple of questions. And, I hopefully that your audience, has a good view of this, and hopefully it gets out. More people get involved. I'm glad to come on whenever you want me. Give me a little time to get new information, because new things happen all the time. We try to bring them up on a daily basis. But again, being on all the programs, it's always hard to listen to what's going on. You got to be everywhere. Right now, I'm trying to get more podcasters to view this because, like you said, why? Why did we want it? Well, let's say we have 10 million people. Then we get 20 million. Then we get 30 million. Now, all of a sudden, you have a voice. So when CharLee kind of calls me and says, hey, I need you to get this stuff out in California, our next election security thing, we get them on. You know what I mean? And we don't see a lot of election security people in California. I don't have a lot of heads. And that's one of the bad things that we're trying to get somebody from California on that can help us. You know what I'm saying? And that's all part of the problem.
Wow. Your energy is tremendous. The work that you do is incredible. And as you said at the beginning of the show, you're 83 years young, and you seem to be more vibrant and powerful than ever. That's incredible. So may God bless you and the work that you're doing and let you continue because you're effective. You're effective. And you don't just sit back and talk about it and complain about it. You actually offer up solutions. You actually offer up chances and a way out and how to make it better. And I love that. Talk is easy. Action's not so much. So you're a man of action, Steve Stern. I really appreciate you. And find him on Rumble. Join him also on yournews.com like he mentioned. He and I are both on there. I appreciate you. I appreciate you very much. You're out there on the East Coast. I'm out here on the West Coast. And let's see if we can absolutely move into not the middle of political spectrum, because I'm always going to be somewhere on the right, but actually offer up some solutions. But the worst part is we're battling against some forces that are behind the scenes that, as we learn more and more every day, are wicked and evil, and even on a local level. That's discouraging. So the best thing I can tell you not to be discouraged is to turn to the Lord. Ultimately, God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So the Lord, if you ask, will give you a peace beyond all understanding. He promises that in his word for his people who love him and are called according to his purpose. He wants good things to happen for us. So keep that in mind and don't give up, Steve Stern. Where do we find you? What's your website again?
So again, you can go to Stern American Rumble. You can email me. My email's on the bottom. You're going to get a lot of information. Doesn't matter if you're in California, you're in Texas, you're in South Carolina, you're in Dakotas. It don't matter. We have people everywhere. If you want to get involved, I'll give you the head of that person there. I'll connect you with all our great people. And look, you see all the nice shirts are behind us? Well, yeah. I got to tell you, I'm gonna show you something that a fella, people send me stuff all the time. One of the nice things that I got, and I love this guy. Take a look at this. Let me put this up. I gave a lot of these out. You can see it's a Trump ring and a USA.
Wow, check that out.
Look at these. So a guy named Ingman, and we'll be glad to let you know where to get these, but he sent me for our event 20 of these things to give out to people. When I gave them to the people, all the people that helped, and you see I'm wearing my Trump hat. When I gave that out to the people, they hugged me, they sent me pictures. But I got to say, Mr. Ingman has done a wonderful job in getting this out. There were little necklaces. I mean, he gave me so many different things. And it was my birthday. And he saw me on Trump, on Steve Bannon. I just sent me so many different items as a gift, which I think is phenomenal. And I actually interviewed him. And I thought it was so nice. So he was so nice to give us all these things to give out. And, when you give somebody a gift, people really appreciate that. And we had at the event one of the great golfers' son, and Gary Player's son was there, Wayne Player. And he gave me a whole bunch of pictures signed by different great golfers. We gave those out. And, we could have auctioned them off. But I just got a note from a guy who played, and he thanked me for it. It was so exciting to see the smile on the face when you give somebody something. And that's what we try to do. We try to help and try to get people involved. And not only in our flag shirts do we have flag shirts and hats, and we have so many umbrellas. We got, I'm going to show you something that it's funny. Our number one item, believe it or not, is this cowboy hat. So I sometimes wear it. People want to take a picture of it. But this is our number one item. And who would ever think a cowboy hat was our number one item. So you could get jewelry, you could get slippers. We have everything under the sun, and we can even fit your babies. We have baby stuff, children's stuff. So we're the number one in the world. And, I don't promote a lot, and I appreciate you letting me do it because it speaks for itself. But the point is, a lot of people don't know that we have all these different items. The biggest item.
That's theflagshirt.com.
www.theflagshirt.com. The reason it's because somebody stole theflagshirt.com instead of, we wanted to run flagshirt.com, but somebody owned it and they wanted like $100,000 for the name. So we said, all right, we'll just put the in front of it, because people always ask me, why do you name it theflagshirt.com? So there's the answer. So I'm very happy to say that I've been doing this for 71 years. And you said one thing that's important. I'm 83, but God comes down. They don't always allow you to, to be here forever. So we need people to step up. So I need people to step up for me. I love all the nice emails and texts and everything, God. And I'm just like you. I'm just an average guy that God tapped in the head and said, Stern, you got to do it. So that's why I'm doing it.
Beautiful. Well, anything I can do to help you, you can count on me. I'm out here waiting. Whenever you need me, I'm there. But definitely after the vote on Sunday, on March 16th, I will let you know what the results are of that election. I pray it's Mike Morrell, because if we get Corinne Rankin in there again, she's vice chair currently under the worst chair I think this state party's ever had.
That's what happens. We get these
yo-yo. Disastrous, and she's going to take over and be just as bad, if not worse. I'm quite convinced of it. So I pray that doesn't happen, because we need good leadership in the party first before we can actually put together an effective strategy of taking our state back, brother. Taking back our state. And as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation, whether you like it or not. So I think the main battle focus is right here on the West Coast. All right, my friend, talk to you soon.
You got it. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for being had. That's my favorite joke. So while he's talking about helping things out, you want to help me out, givesendgo.com/DoNotTalk. GiveSendGo, the nation's only Christian, nonprofit, charitable giving site. GiveSendGo.com/DoNotTalk. And that little QR code right there, that takes you to Venmo.com/DoNotTalk. Venmo.com/DoNotTalk. Help this show stay on the air, because there's costs incurred, and we need to invest in an actual real computer instead of my rickety old Dell laptop that I've. I know you're fooled. It just seems so professional, Charlie. You look so good. How do you do it? It's not me. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America bless God.